So take your time finding your way to your feet. If you have blocks or books along, you may place them maybe in the top quarter or third of your mat so that you have them available for support in a moment. And stepping into the middle or top quarter, third of your mat, wherever works for you. That's more specific than anybody probably needs. Finding your way to the top of your mat. Find your mountain pose. You might place your feet intentionally on railroad tracks, letting toes and heels point forward and back, softening the knees, turning them in the same direction as the toes. Find neutrality in the hips before reaching towards the floor with your fingertips as you turn your thumbs outward. Draw your belly button in as your chest inflates with a big breath in. Think tall thoughts, lifting your crown, maybe tucking your chin slightly, pressing into the ground with your feet while also lifting with that fullness of breath, and exhaling here in your firm and grounded mountain pose. Choose to stay here or take a big step back with one set of toes. As they find the mat, you may spin on the ball of that foot, bringing the heel towards the midline or wherever it wants to come. You can scoot your footprint out or back, whatever feels most stable. And I'll encourage you to take note of the alignment of your front knee. If you're extending past the ankle, it might be nice to heel toe that foot forward so that your shin is a little more vertical. And we'll grip the mat with both feet like we're going to tear it in half in the middle. An option here to lift the arms to shoulder height, maybe shrug the shoulders towards the ears. And then exhale, lower everything to shoulder height. This is a nice strong warrior two. You have the option to breathe in as you flip the front palm over that lunging knee. Drape the long arm behind you over the back extended leg as you lift that palm towards the sky. Option to bend that lifted elbow, maybe cradle the back of the head as you look up. And hinging at the hip will bring that bent elbow towards the folded knee and maybe connect it. I like to imagine there's a serving tray resting on this open palm, and the back arm may lift towards the sky. This is side angle, and maybe you see why as we reach the palm and fingers overhead, making a long line from the grounded foot behind to the lifted hand. Choose to stay here and breathe in this strong pose. You can press into the connection of your elbow on your thigh. Notice both feet. Can you press into both equally? Can you make any space for your neck? Option to bring one hand to a block just inside of your ankle. Notice if this changes where you have support. When you're ready to come out, reach back and choose to lift the front arm, finding warrior two once more. We'll extend the front leg, maybe find a sigh of relief. Lifting the toes of that foot, we'll pivot on the heel and bring the toes in alignment with the back ones. And now front and back are going to switch. So you might choose to pivot on the other heel to place those toes towards the short edge on the other side of your mat, the other end of your mat. And again, you can heel toe your feet in a place that makes sense for your body's alignment. When you feel stable and firm in your foundation, maybe your arms lift to shoulder height. Warrior two on this side, big breath in. Option to flip the palm over your lunging knee and toggle your shoulders as you reach up overhead with that palm. Reversing your warrior. Keep lunging with that strong knee. Option to bend the elbow, maybe cradle your head as you look up. Hinging at the hip, that elbow might find connection with the knee as you reach overhead and find side angle on this side. Option to find that block again on the inside of the ankle. Option to bend the elbow, especially in limited space. You could cradle your head here. If you want more from this pose, you can continue to reach towards the floor with your lower hand, maybe find connection there. You might increase the space between your feet to bring your hips a little lower. Option to reach until that shoulder connects with the inside of the knee. So you can bend that elbow and bring your hands behind the hip, maybe to bind by connecting with the other hand. These are all just options. You can get off the bus at any time. I'll meet you in Warrior II with a sigh of relief as we lengthen that lunging leg. Really nice work. As you pivot on the heel of your foot, you may bring both sets of toes to point in the same direction again. Preparing for a wide-legged fold, it could be nice to stand in front of a wall again for that support, or bring your books or blocks along for a place to set handprints or elbows as you prepare to fold. So choosing how wide to set your railroad tracks under your footprints. I like to bring my hands to my hips and take a big breath in and a big breath out. Maybe finding that ocean sound again in your breathing practice. And when you're ready, choose to hinge at your hips, sending your tail back in space to hover over your heels and maybe even reach towards the sky as your heart melts towards the floor. Maybe your hands come to the tops of your books or blocks, or maybe your fingertips make little tents with your hands on the mat or floor. You might tuck your chin if you feel safe and balanced and lengthen the back of your neck as you nod yes, or shake your head no. And you stay here for a few breaths, continue breathing, and also be mindful of your blood pressure. If lowering your blood pressure in this way is helpful, then I invite you to stay for an extra breath or more. As always, take care and let your pose look different than mine. Another option could be to come onto your elbows as you make a little space and notice the length in the backs of your legs. It could also feel nice to turn toes slightly inward and let your heels go outward. As you keep lifting with your tail, lengthening the inseam and the backs of the legs. If you have a handstand in your practice, you're welcome to find it now. I will not be demonstrating a handstand or headstand, but you may see how bringing your handprints to the mat and then working towards bringing your elbows to the mat begins to set a nice platform. From here, often folks will create a kind of triangle, maybe interlacing the hands for 1 anchor point, and then grounding the elbows for 2 more. And this is where I get off the bus, but some begin to dump their weight into that new set of anchors and lifting the feet towards the sky. So come out of your wide-legged fold whenever you feel complete, taking your time and using your breath to do so. We'll take our time and roll up to standing one time before we prepare to move to the floor once more. I'll invite you again to bring that blanket or towel along to create a pallet or cushion for your knees. And we'll prepare for low lunges. If you have blocks or books along, you might use them for support under your hands. This is just an option. Choose to kneel on one knee as you step the other foot forward. Think again about those railroad tracks instead of placing yourself on a balance beam. From here, think about tucking your tail and scooping it under towards the grounded heel in front of you. If you have books or blocks under your hands, they may offer support for some of the weight of your upper body. Think about driving the back shin and top of the foot into the mat behind you as your heart lifts. When you're ready, you may glue your front foot down and glide your hips back towards the grounded foot behind you, lengthening this front leg. Option to peel the toes back. Imagine dragging your heel through sand towards you without moving it. As you flex your toes towards your shin, can you send your whole footprint out to the side, almost like turning the volume up on a dial? And then reverse that rotation as you step into that lunge one more time before bringing your knee to the mat and preparing to step the other foot forward. Maybe find tall kneeling on this side. Prepare by bringing your blocks or books if you have them. And think again about scooping your tailbone under towards that front heel. You may not move as far forward as you know you can, and that's okay. If you hear sounds in the background, know that they're my cat, hungry for attention, but he's happy and healthy, so nothing to worry about, though the sounds might be odd if they make it through the microphone. Can you tune into your breath? Notice that ocean sound as you notice your footprint connecting with the floor in front of you. Drive the back shin into the mat for more activation of this open hip. When you're ready, keep the front foot glued in place as the hips glide back towards the heel behind you, lengthening the front knee. Option to peel your toes back, flexing them towards your shin as you grip the mat with that heel. Turn your whole footprint out to the side, just as you did on the other side, like turning a dial. And then bring it back to center. Choose to step into your lunge slightly one time and return to kneeling. From here, I'll invite you to take a seat on the mat and place any props out of the way. It might be nice to bring your feet to the floor. I'll turn to face you for a moment, but make this suit your space. I like to bring my handprints behind me so I can lean back like I'm in a lawn chair, maybe making the handprints really wide. I'm doing the same thing with the footprints and beginning to windshield wiper my shins from left to right. This can create some soft rotation for the lumbar spine underneath the thoracic spine while we kind of keep the shoulders anchored in space. We also are lubricating the hip joint a bit before we create a little more length there. When you're ready, you might find your seat underneath you, maybe bringing your hands to your shins for support.